Hi everyone, it's me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alanna and I'm a Canadian, but I have been living here in the UK for the last 6 years. And on this channel, I love to do taste tests, and something that has always been a hot button topic is root beer. I love it, and Brits always tell me how horrible it is, and I want to find out why. So today we are talking all about root beer, why most British people hate it, but Americans love it. So without further ado, let's go. As most people who watch my videos are British, hello, hi, how's it going? Have you ever had root beer? What did you think of it? And how would you describe it to others? I'd love it if you could leave a comment down below. Give me your thoughts about root beer. Now, as a Canadian, root beer has always just sort of been there. It's just a flavor. It's just a variety. It is pretty much always available. You've got your Coke, you've got your Sprite, you've got your root beer. It's just there. But when I sat down to do some research for this video, I realized I don't know anything about root beer. I don't know what it's made of. I don't know what it's supposed to taste like. I was trying to figure out how to describe the flavor to someone who hasn't had it, and I honestly don't know what to say. To me, root beer is a very brown tasting drink. It's very earthy. There's like a little bit of vanilla, but I don't really know what else is in there. It's just like a rich vanilla. It kind of reminds me of like molasses type thing. I don't know. It's just like, it's sort of like a dark flavor, but it's very sweet and it's very earthy. And that's really the only way I know how to describe it, which is kind of crazy when you think it's such a popular flavor in North America. But anytime I mention root beer, I always have British people telling me that it's vile, it's disgusting. Like, how could you drink that? Which I just find is so fascinating, because in North America, it's a like beloved flavor. So I had a little bit of a Google to better explain what is root beer, how did we get to root beer, what's the deal with root beer? So root beer is actually North American, which didn't realize that, but that kind of makes sense. It is a soft drink traditionally made using the root bark of a sassafras tree or the vine of a Simlix ornata, known as sarsaparilla, as the primary flavor. Didn't know that, but here we are. Root beer is typically non-alcoholic, although you can make it alcoholic and it is pretty good. Caffeine-free, sweet, I would say extremely sweet, and carbonated. Root beer is also a really popular flavor if you are going to make like a vanilla ice cream float. Root beer is like top on the list of pops to add to that. Now, during my little bit of a Google, I was reading, so saffrol, I'm probably not pronouncing any of these properly, don't worry about it, is a key component of sassafras, and it was actually banned by the FDA in the 1960s due to its carcinogenicity, cancer-causing elements. Let's just say that. So most commercial root beers nowadays are actually flavored with an artificial version of this because the like legitimate one was causing cancer. How fun. Now, root beer in terms of like North American standards is pretty old. This was saying the first root beer recipe, at least one of the early ones, was popular in the 1870s when a pharmacist invented a cure-all beverage. Just have a little bit of root beer. So this original recipe contained herbs, roots, berries, including sassafras, sarsaparilla, wintergreen leaf, which is quite shocking, licorice root, hops, and birch. And they thought that this original recipe was like a medicinal kind of thing, right? Now, a root beer recipe that is more like what we would drink today, or at least what North Americans would drink and British people would not drink, was actually created in the 1880s, and you would buy it as an extract, which I thought was so fascinating. So the root beer extract, which was primarily made from sassafras, you would mix it at home with water, sugar, and yeast. And people loved it so much that the company behind the extract started selling it in actual bottles like a pop. So this is in 1893. And then of course from there, loads of other companies start cropping up. You have different brands. You've got Barks. Maybe you're a Barks person. Maybe you're an A&W person like me. I think there's Dad's as well. There's loads of companies now that do this root beer thing. And I imagine their formulas are slightly different because people who love Barks hate A&W and vice versa. But all of them are going to include some variation of either sassafras or sarsaparilla, licorice root, ginger, mint, shocking, cinnamon, and vanilla. Now, when I was having a little bit of a Google about what root beer actually is, what's in it, mint was very, very surprising to me because I have never had root beer and thought mint. And any North Americans watching, let me know what you think because that is absolutely not a flavor I would have considered. For me, root beer was a bit of a treat. So when my mom and I would go to the mall, the shopping center, Mom and I would go to the mall, we'd go to the food court for lunch, right? What are we getting? We're getting A&W, which for British people watching, A&W is like a fast food chain. It's like McDonald's, right? But it's like really, really good. And they would have their own A&W root beer. So as a treat, we'd go to the food court, we'd get our burgers and fries, and we would get A&W root beer. And that was like one of the only times I would have it. So I didn't have it too often because it is crazy sweet, but it was always like a real treat. And I think if you've grown up having root beer, it's not anything unique, right? Like that's how things work. If you grow up with something, then it's not that big of a deal. It's not unique. It's not foreign. It's just root beer. It's just root beer. Now, why do Brits hate it? Well, I think one element is that you didn't grow up with it. I think you can put up with a lot of weird flavors, weird textures, weird food if you grow up with it. If you're being introduced to it as an adult, it is very difficult to get used to it. And some British people do like root beer, but they are few and far between. It seems like at least a lot of the British people that I've spoken to and lots of the stuff online is that British people find that root beer either tastes like medicinal or tastes like mouthwash, which is shockingly not appetizing. Even fast food chains like McDonald's, apparently McDonald's sold root beer for a very limited time. It was so unpopular that they actually discontinued it. I think comparatively, stuff like dandelion and burdock. Dandelion and burdock is quite a well-known flavor here in the UK. Lots of people grew up drinking it. As a foreigner, being exposed to dandelion and burdock in my mid to late 20s, it's hard to get on board with it. And I imagine root beer is kind of similar. So some British thoughts on root beer. Well, I'd love it if you left it in the comments as well. Some of the ones that I came across was this one. We have a bottled antiseptic solution here in the UK called TCP. It's used on minor cuts and grazes. Root beer smells exactly like it. It's like drinking TCP. Another person said, it tastes just like this smells. How about, I was brought up in the UK where I don't recall ever drinking root beer. I did go to the dentist, however, and had to gargle on dental mouthwash. On my first trip to Canada around 2001, I tried root beer. Tasted like dental mouthwash. No thanks, not for me. That's actually really common. Loads of people have said root beer tastes like the mouthwash at the dentist, or like medicine type stuff, or antiseptic type stuff, which is like really disgusting when you think about it. And I actually, for this video, found A&W root beer. So this is my favorite brand. This was, I think, £2 for the single can. It was so hard to find this. I went to 2 giant supermarkets, like proper sized supermarkets. Nobody sold any sort of root beer, not even like a British equivalent. I couldn't find any of that. I checked American sections, couldn't find that. I checked international foods, couldn't find it. I went to a specific like import sweet shop because I knew that they had an American section and we found it. Now, to be honest, I was really interested in trying this and seeing if it tastes minty. Cheers, everybody. Cheers to root beer. Oh my God, I get it. And interestingly, this particular can came to us from Vancouver. Shout out to anyone in Vancouver right now. Okay, so here's the thing. Does this taste minty? Kind of, but I don't know if that's my brain thinking that because we read about having mint in it, that I then think it tastes like mint. I do notice the licorice a lot more, which is kind of crazy because I hate black licorice. And yet, now I did just have a bit of a Google. What is in the A&W one? Like, how does that make it different? The first thing that comes up says that A&W's recipe has remained a secret since its debut in 1919. So I can't even tell you what's in this, which is kind of cool, but also kind of shocking. The only thing I can see online says it is first created in 1919, blend of roots, bark, and berries. Who knows? Now, to me, I still love this. I think it is so good with French fries, really salty French fries, and a nice, maybe bacon cheeseburger. Ooh, I'm getting goosebumps. It is crazy sweet, and I think that's why I like having it with like a really salty, meaty meal, because they really they go so well together. I definitely would say it is more licorice than I remember. So like a licorice, vanilla, sort of like molasses, dark, sort of earthy taste. I think that's as close as I can get to explaining what this is like. But the fact that this is the Canadian version and it was created in 1919 is pretty cool. If you are feeling adventurous and you want to try something new, root beer. If you happen to see it, any British people watching, if you happen to see it at your grocery store, why not give it a try? You'll probably hate it, but at least you'll try something new. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to what have you grown up having? If you've grown up around Marmite and your parents had Marmite and you had Marmite as a kid and you've sort of grown up around it, perhaps you really like it. If you tried Marmite as an adult for the first time, wow, that's surprising. If you like this video and you want to watch more videos, which would be totally awesome, why not check out this one where I talk about why Americans don't know about blackcurrants. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye!